So I want you to imagine this. Imagine you're deathly ill. You're a Christian, and the question comes up is do you call a doctor or do you pray to God? And if you call a doctor, would that prove that you don't believe in God or that you don't trust in prayer? So recently I heard this question asked to a Christian by an atheist. That question was presented to them in an attempt to stump them. And the Christian being asked the question really had a difficult time answering. And actually got a little bit worse. After the atheist asked the question, he continued by adding this. He said, "You only have one option." This is where he stumped him, I think. You can pray or you can seek medical attention from a doctor. With those two options in front of you, which option would you choose? You see, the atheist is asking this question, and it assumes that if you elect to go to a doctor, well, then you simply must not have a God that would answer your prayer, or perhaps you're worshiping a God that is not even real, or even thirdly, that you really don't have true faith because you went and saw a doctor. However, today I just want to point out that this theology is wildly flawed. And I just want to give you a couple of examples if we were to frame it a little differently. Let me just say this. Let's just imagine this. I have a $2,000 mortgage payment that is due. I've got $20,000 in the bank, hypothetically. I've got $20,000 in the bank. And then I'm asked, so Michael, do you pray that God pays your mortgage payment? Or do I recognize that God has already provided the resource? And I simply stroke the check and make my mortgage payment. Example number two, I'm starving, right? I'm starving. I'm on the brink of dying. And I look across the street and there's a McDonald's, or maybe there's somebody giving out free hot dogs. But do I pray to God that God will give me a hamburger, or do I walk across the street recognizing that God has already provided a resource? Maybe I'm homeless. I'm freezing outside. I'm freezing. I'm about to lose an arm or a leg. I discover there is a shelter, say a half a mile down the road. Now I only have one option. I can stay in the shelter or I can just pray. Do you see the ridiculousness in that question? Do you really believe in God? Why would you go down to the shelter a half mile down the road and seek shelter when you could just pray to God? You see, the resource in that case, in all these cases, we could go on and on, it's already been provided. Maybe it's a doctor, maybe it's a hamburger, maybe it's a shelter. I don't know. But if God has provided the resource, I am not lacking in faith when I exercise those options that God has given me. Now, if the atheist had asked the question a little differently, he says, hey, you've got cancer. Three of the best doctors have already told you there's no cure. You can do anything you want. You're going to die, period. And you trust these doctors. Now you have two options. Do you go to a fourth doctor or do you pray? And I think you would find most Christians at this point would say, I'm going to pray. I'm going to trust in God. By the way, we don't pray to things or people that we do not believe in. No one is praying to, like, if you truly don't believe in God, you would be an idiot. That's like me saying, Santa Claus, please bring me some gifts. Well, I don't do that because I don't believe that there is a Santa Claus who's going to be bringing me Christmas presents, maybe to the kids, but not me. As Christians, we also realize that sometimes God does not heal. The Bible tells us, and we believe this, that godliness is not a means of financial gain. But this idea that we should abandon human logic when God has clearly shown us that the provisions have already been provided to us by Him, it is a senseless question that the atheist will be asking, and it's founded on weak legs. However, I could also flip this question back on this guy, right? I could say, okay, atheist, you are on a deserted island. You find yourself dying of a terrible disease. There's no one for thousands of miles away. No one knows you're there. There's no communication whatsoever. It is you and nobody else. Would you just die, or would you look for hope and pray that God will hear you and answer your prayers? And I imagine some would say, I'll just die. And there would be others that, when actually faced with death and no other alternative, that they themselves would pray to what we believe is God, that they are unsure of as God. You see, all we're really doing is we're both creating senseless debate. Yeah, the atheist has not disproven God by his question he proposed to us, and I've not proven God by the question that I've asked him about the being on a deserted island, dying of some disease. Moreover, the atheist wrongfully presumes that I've only got one option, when oftentimes God has already given us multiple options. And the atheist is asking me to abandon all of my intelligence and abandon what I know that God has already made available to me. And so the only fair way he could actually ask this question would be to give me an example where God has only given us one choice, in which case I submit to you that every Christian would say, yeah, I would absolutely pray to God for sure. I would pray, I would seek the options that God has made available to me, if there are any. Anything else, if I didn't seek these options, if I didn't call a doctor, if I didn't go to the shelter, if I didn't go grab the hamburger when I was hungry, that wouldn't make me look faithless. That would make me look utterly stupid. And I don't think Christians need to abandon all of their God-given intelligence in order to satisfy a silly question from an atheist. All right, guys, that's my answer. So if you like this video, as always, please be sure and to comment below, like, and share. And God bless you all.